Hi folks, welcome back to another episode. My name is Tamil Maran. Today's review is actually in C programming. What are how the standards and guidelines for the peer review checklist? This is a very important point actually. Who are all doing for peer review? Okay, so what are the checklist is to be used in this assessment for the C source code during a peer reviewers? Okay, and which are all the represent the code beginning review should be checked, which are all maintained. Okay, and for the C program we'll see. And now in C program standards actually readability and maintainability is the most important. Okay, so the programmer makes a consistent use of indentations, like what to say, like makes consistent use of the braces. Okay, so it must be there. And include files. Okay, so include files are, as you know, like listed immediately after the file documentation pack, obviously. Okay, the system header files are listed in the alphanumeric order, obviously, and the double quotation is used for the inclusion of all non-system header files. Also the non-system header files are listed in the alphanumeric order. Okay, and this is the main thing for the include files. And also absolute or some relative paths are not used in the include file. I mean, to point to header file locations, obviously. I mean, header files contains pre-processor directives, and preventing multiple inclusions should not do for the multiple inclusions aspects. Okay, better try to be avoid multiple inclusions into the header files contains. Okay, so this is a part for like we have to understand how the include files could be handled. Okay, and another one is now very important. This is actually variable and function scopes. This is very important. Okay, so global variables are used like sparingly, like declaration, and how the variable declaration and initialization and qualifiers. This is a very important point everyone must be seeing. For because when you writing program like source code, like machine code, whatever you write the program, that is called source code. Just like .c file, you open the just a .c file you open and you will write the program. Is that obvious? That is called source code. So variable names with leading trailing underscores are not used generally, as you know. Okay, and I mean variable names with leading underscores are not used. The names of constants definitely by as defined, as you know, that is a defined function. Okay, so on enumerated constants and constants defined with specific data or in the all capital letters. Okay, so variable names which differ only be a case are not used. Also variable names do not conflict with standard library names. Actually, it should not conflict with the standard library names. And variable names are descriptive. It must be like descriptive, and the consist format of the naming of variable is used. Obviously it must be consist format, and words in the name of the local variable are distinguished either by separated them or by the underscore by the using camel case with the leading letter of the variable in lowercase, obviously. Okay, so can I repeat the point once again? I mean, a consistent format for the naming of variable is used. Consistent format must be there. Also, words in the name of local variable are distinguished either by separating them by underscores, as obviously. Okay, so or by using camel case uses the leading letter for the variable in lowercase. Okay, so the name of the variable of user defined types be in the camel case with the first letter capitalization, or underscores are not used. It must be. Okay, right. So pointers are initialized to null, as you know. Okay, also pointers are tested for null before being referenced. Obviously it must be tested in the null before being referenced. So pointer also is a variable which you can store address of the variable. This is a very point actually. Okay, pointing always address of the variable, so it's a very must to peer review it for the reviewers main points should be initialized to null. Also before using it must be referenced. Okay, and the constant, so we have different type of constants. So constant qualifier is used for variable whose value should not be modified, obviously. And next point, the static qualifier is applied to all fine scope variables and functions whose use is local to a single file. I mean the static qualifier is applied to all scope of variable, and the function whose is local to a single file. Okay, as you know, like types of variable and how the static variable will be handled. Okay, so static variables are initialized when they are declared. Obviously, when they are declared only, it must be declared. I mean, it must be initialized. So local arrays which are initialized using an initial list are made by static. So they are made constant if there is a content or not to be modified. So constants are declared in the header file, as you know. This is okay. So and values are not hard coded. Obviously, it is very very master. Values are not hard coded. So except 0, 1 and sometimes 2 for math computations, obviously. Okay, at 0, 1 it doesn't matter, but sometimes 2 for math computation is okay. These all we can follow as a exceptional case. Okay, these are very main point. The peer review should be followed for the during peer review for the variable declaration and initialization, how it will be get qualifier. Okay, or the variable and what is the function scope. Okay, so now let me see how the pointers and dynamic array could be handled. So dynamically allocated memory is deallocated when no longer it's needed, obviously. Okay, so functions do not return pointers to non-static dynamic variables. Okay, and large arrays are dynamically allocated to the heap. We have to be very clearly understand what is heap and stack. Okay, so large arrays are dynamically allocated on the heap during the heap moment. And what is another function? So that's all for the pointers and dynamic memory. We must focus for the peer reviews. Now function, we'll see what are the points need to be peer reviewed during the checklist. Which are points we can maintain as a checklist for peer review. Okay, during functions. If your source code is writing some functions, so generally a consistent format for the name of function is used generally. Okay, so words in functions name are distinguished either by separating them by the underscore or by using camel case with the leading letter of the function name is lowercase, obviously. And function prototypes are declared in the header files which are included in the source module that are called function. I mean, okay, can I repeat once again? This point is very important. Function prototypes are declared in header files. Okay, I mean, so which are included in the source models, that should be called the function, obviously. Okay, should not be skipped. This is another point during the peer review for the function aspects. Those are written for functions. Also, the arguments specified in the function prototypes are associated with the variable, obviously names. So it must be associated. The variable's name match the variable names the function, obviously. Otherwise, it will give error. Okay, so functions used only in the source model. So they are created in or preceded by the static keyword. They do not have a prototype in the file, obviously. Okay, so understood. And the return types of functions are explicitly stated. It's return type of functions are explicitly stated. Okay, and standard C library routines are used very appropriate. It is okay. So you have to know this. Okay, for functions. And how the portability just like a code is avoided, which are non-portability code should be avoided. And code does not assume that the data are stored in the particularly way with respect to word boundaries in the memory. Obviously, it will not assumed. Okay, we got to understand that is okay. And how the file organization and what are the comments we need to do. Say okay. So the name of C source files which belongs to common library or the executable have a common prefix. Okay, So comments, what and all means blog comments, online comments, and inline comments are used appropriately. So the blank line is placed before and after blog comment, and yeah, one line comment to separate it from the surrounding source code, obviously. Okay. So now variable declaration and initialization qualifiers must be generally loop index variable names are short, obviously should be maintained. Loop index variable names should be short. So pointer variable are named in a consistent fashion, obviously. It's just like a consistent fashion, it must be maintained for the pointer variable better. Okay, should not be enlarged and like that. So somewhat we have to be conscious because the memory consumption is more important than the source code. So obviously pointers are to be clearly, variables are named in the consistent fashion. Okay, so also user defines is another main point. So as you know, enumerations are used to group logically related constant. Enumerator type definition. I mean, user they need to do some their own data type can create using the enumerator and type definition. Obviously, everyone knows. Okay, so that the enumerations are used to group logically related constant. Okay, also macros are used more actually. Is okay, and parentheses are the used in macros to ensure correct evaluation order. Structures are used to reduce the number of function calling arguments. Okay, now we'll see how the pointers and dynamic memory. Generally, pointers are used as an argument to the function in a place of passing by value. Large use different types of the structures. Okay. Now, functions are inlined if they are small and they're called many times, obviously. Okay. You have to peer review whether the number of library function calls is limited in the large loop. It must be limited in the large loop. Okay. Also, embedded statement are avoided generally. So minimize the possibility of the side effect. Okay. And how could it get the program control? So unnecessary code is avoided in loops generally. The number of loop counters is kept to the minimum. Loops are combined with when the possible to reduce the total loop however it cost. And next point we can say like in program control like logical tests are optimized by the performing the fast and most capability of the first time. I mean the first test obviously. I mean I'm trying to say like a logical tests are optimized obviously by performing the fastest and the most capable test first. Okay, and non-boolean variables are tested against the explicit value, and go to statement is used sparingly, and portability. There is another concept of portability to the peer group. So machine independent code is organized into a separate file from the machine dependency code. Obviously, I mean I'm trying to say like machine independent code is organized into a separate file from the machine dependent code. Whether you should maintain that the review aspect they must be checklist. Okay, I mean if you are writing program like .c source code, obviously as you know how the translator will do, everyone knows like compiler and interpreter how it get performed your whatever write program that will be like high level in C program. For converting C actually your machine will understand only for low level. So your main objective is when you are writing program, it will be converted into like a high level to low level. Okay, that's the main thing. Then you will be generating the exe file, okay, which is user can understand. Okay, I will write program that is only .c file basically. Okay, and now the another point for what are the portability should be checklisted during C program. So machine independent code is organized into a separate file from the machine dependent code. And machine dependent assumptions are not made generally. We can't assumptions are not made. And what to say? See, at least one digit on either side of the decimal point is used for the floating point variables. At least one digit it must be there for the floating point variable, obviously. And hexadecimal variables are started with, as you know, how the hexa format and use uppercase of the AF. There is specific how to be hexa variable should be formatted, and the floating point variable should be formatted, everything. And explicit casting is obviously casting, as you know, typecasting. Is it? From the by default, when you store a variable like one integer 1.0, basically, for example, it will take as a integer value 1, but it will not take as a float. When you doing during typecaster, it automatically converted into that 1.2 as a float only to consider. Very simple. If you type in integer 1.1, integer, if you declare 1.1 and as a float to your assumption, obviously you will print as a 1 only because you are declared as a integer until you declare into float format. So that only we require for the casting method. Okay, and the final things is C program performing. This is very important. Okay, how the C program performing. This checklist is most important. After once, everyone should be more aware of how the C program peer reviewers checklist must be maintained for C program performance. C frequently used variables are qualified with the register keyword. Okay, and multiple character variables are used to store boolean values rather than the using and bits in the byte to the represent boolean flags, obviously. Okay, so first point, frequently used variables are qualified with the register keyword. Okay, second, I would like to say multiple character variables are used to store boolean values rather than using a bits into the byte to represent boolean flags. As you know, everyone must know the byte codes are happening. Okay, this you can understand if you are using for any interpreter because it has the bytecode logics actually. You must know bytecodes are not like maximum cannot be modified because of the user aspects. Okay, it's a defined program. Okay, which is existing like library format. Okay, also you can write, but you can make it as a library for user perception also. So the memory set C library routines is used to initialize a large area of memory. Everyone knows like memset. The memset C library routines is used to initialize a large area of memory. Also memcopy. Memcopy C library routine is used to copy large areas of memory. This is a very important point. The memset C library routine is used to initialize a large area of memory. The memcopy C library routine is used to copy large areas of the memory. Okay, and frequently read files or database tables or read once buffered in memory. Okay, so if possible, okay, when you give an incrementer operator like x plus x incremented example is used rather than the x equal to x plus 1, you must use the incrementer operator or x plus equal to 1 also, but the form is x decrement is rather than the x equal to x minus 1 or x equal to 1, x minus equal to 1. Okay, so we must know. So people will write like without incrementer operator. They must use this. When possible, the form try to be x increment is the rather than the x equal to x plus 1. Okay, but both our outcome is same, but try to avoid that. Okay, so reviewer should be focused on this because developer may do this kind of activity, or they may be in their different way. They will be understanding the requirement. They need to meet the requirement, so they will be simply write the code. Otherwise, they whatever already existing logics which is working, they take as a specimen copy and they try to edit and they will copy paste. Okay, but that is already peer review has done. These points are already done. Okay, so easily they will copy right into the same function, and only the logic computation only will be changed. Okay, so the multiplication of integer variables by powers of 2 is done with the left shift obviously. Okay, you have to know how the shifting operator will be done. I mean multiplication of the integer variable by the powers of 2, and the division of integer variables by powers of 2 done with the right shift. This is the main thing. And sorting and the searching large amounts of the data is done using appropriate and the effective techniques. You have to be very important point. Sorting and the searching large amount of data is done using appropriate and the effective techniques. Okay, so repetitive computations are reduced by doing the once saving the results in the compare variable for the future access. We have to be clearly Understand? Okay. So repetitive computations are reduced by doing uh, one sum and the saving the results in temporary variable of the assets. Okay. Find faults. You might be understand how the C programming standards and guidelines peer review checklist must be maintained. Okay. In the next episode, I will say you during the episode what and all defect and defect faults and error and bugs could be fixed. Okay, we'll take some samples also program and we'll fix in the real time some types of bugs. I will be do classification. Okay, and one concept everyone must be understand. Generally for developing C program and designing is very simple manner because Mm, most of the products will be COTs only we follow, like already post existing source code. I mean the base version they will be offering. So in the base version already it must be completely peer reviewed and as per the peer review checklist. So you no need to afraid of if somebody giving peer review checklist activity or something requirement design aspects, development activity. It's very if you are very simple knowing about the basic of C program, easily you can design you can become a design software. I mean you can design your own software. I mean you can develop your software. Okay, so very simple. You have to understand when they give requirement, but most of the requirement it's already been achieved. You can search in Google itself, you will get. So you will get a lot of model samples code because already there are most of complex I mean the hybrid complex related programs also they are done for the programming samples. Very easily you can refer it and just copy paste it and you can edit it. And also there are um, so many people will do mistakes for during the peer review checklist because nowadays most of the people they whoever developing program itself only will do reviews and I mean whoever developer he will become a tester and he will become a self review and he try to be pass it reviews. But in case of software testing aspects, I mean, if you are approaching for robustness, at that moment the robustness, if you conduct your code, obviously it goes in when you are offering invalid input, there is a lot of crash will happen. Your source code are not only flashed, also your entire hardware simulation, emulation will be get flashed. So you have to be very pinpoint about what is the checklist must be followed. Okay, when you are developing your C program. Okay, this some few points we are discussing and another episode will be seeing with the examples. Okay, every program and one examples we will take how the peer review will be done. We will take some formal peer review for any one source code we'll take and we'll be discuss about it. Okay, so this is what today's done anyway. Okay, thanking you folks. Let me see another episode. Take care. Bye.